Welcome to Beyond the Chair. If you are here, it's because at some level you know that your income should not be capped by your schedule. You're talented, you're booked, you're capable, but booked does not always mean leveraged. So today I'm going to show you how one category, wigs, can become profitable, scalable revenue stream inside of your business. And when I say scalable, I don't mean more hours. I don't mean double booking. I mean one leverage service that can equal a week of chair income without multiplying your time. And I want you to really sit with that too. What would change in your business if one client could equal 1 week of chair income? Now, this is not just a wig training. This is a leverage training. Hair loss just happens to be one of the most underserved and highest margin categories in beauty industry right now. And if you stay with us until the very end, I'm going to show you exactly how this works and exactly how you can step into this immediately. Now, before we go any further, I'm Jamie Madsen. I'm the founder of Maven Mane. We are a luxury alternative hair company working in the hair loss category, but more importantly, my work sits at the intersection of identity, beauty, and business. I don't just care about the transformation that's happening in the chair. I also care about the transformation that's happening behind the chair, inside of the stylist business. Because when stylists control what they offer, what they charge, and how much time you spend behind the chair, everything changes. And if you've ever felt like your business hasn't even scratched the surface of your potential, you're likely inside of a capped business model. How many of you are fully booked right now? I want you to drop booked in the chat. I want to know how many of you are fully booked. And you can just drop booked in the chat. We're already getting some booked. Okay. So today, a little ahead of myself. Today, Maven Mane supports hairstylists across the country that are already offering high ticket hair loss services. Now, these dots on the map represent stylists that are currently implementing this model. Now, these are not wig influencers. They're not celebrity wig stylists, although we do have a few of them. These are everyday stylists, and they are offering high ticket solutions without gambling on unreliable wig suppliers, without sitting on stale inventory, and most importantly, without adding more hours behind the chair. Now, before the 100 brand partners, before the luxury wigs, before we ever trained a single stylist, this category didn't have a system. There was no roadmap. There was no trusted suppliers. There was no pricing model. There was no certifications. There was no referral system and no structure. And that's the problem most stylists are dealing with today. What we realized after working with stylists across the world is that stylists are not just struggling because they need more clients. They're struggling because their income is tied to how many hours they can physically work. And while the industry is chasing more balayages, more cuts and colors, there's a six-figure hair loss service hiding in plain sight. So the real question isn't whether this opportunity exists. The question is, why hasn't anyone shown you how to step into it yet? So how do I know that this category matters? Because I was this client and I couldn't find what I needed. And this is the part of my story that I don't always lead with because it's kind of embarrassing. This wasn't just a business idea. It actually started as a personal crisis. And in this season of my life, I was dealing with trichotillomania, which is a compulsive hair pulling condition. And what that means was I wasn't just stressfully pulling out my hair, I was losing control of how I looked on the outside. And if you look closely at this photo, you can actually see it, literal sections missing from my hair. And there is something uniquely destabilizing about not recognizing yourself in the mirror. 1 year before this photo was taken, my life looked completely different. On the outside, I looked fine, but internally, I didn't feel like myself anymore. And when you do not feel like yourself, it's not just about hair, it's about identity. Now, there are millions of women showing up every single day that are running businesses like I was, families, even posting on social media. And what I realized was I wasn't unique. And I wasn't the only one that was silently navigating hair loss behind the scenes, right? There are others with cancer, alopecia, postpartum shedding, stress disorders like I had, so many more. And most of them have no idea where to go for help. So when I started digging deeper into this, I realized that the numbers were literally staggering. 50% of women will experience noticeable hair loss in their lifetime. 90% of women experience postpartum shedding. 6.8 million Americans live with alopecia. 1 in 8 women are diagnosed with breast cancer, and disorders like trichotillomania affect millions more. This is not a niche problem. This is half the female population. Not to mention, the global wig and hair replacement market exceeds $8 to $10 billion annually, and the majority of that money is not going to hairstylists. It's going to online wig retailers, medical suppliers, direct to consumer brands. Meanwhile, the most qualified professionals to help these women are sitting behind the chair, or standing rather. Now, when a woman finally feels like herself again, price stops being the first question. Okay? This is not just a cosmetic service, this is identity restoration work. And identity restoration is one of the most powerful and profitable services you can offer. And women will invest deeply to feel like themselves again. So, something shifted. I stopped asking, how do I fix my hair? And I started asking a different question. Who do I want to be? I started experimenting with different lengths, different colors, different energies. And then something unexpected happened. The outside transformation started changing how I felt on the inside. And then it hit me that wigs were not just a cover up for my condition. They gave me permission. They gave me leverage. So as my confidence started coming back, I began sharing my journey online. And when I did that, something really interesting started to happen. Women began to reach out to me, and not just a few of them, but dozens of them. And they would ask questions like, where did you find your wigs? Or do you know a stylist who does this? How has this helped your confidence? And when I realized something, I realized it wasn't just about me, right? I realized that there was a pattern in society. Women weren't just asking about hair, they were asking about identity. But secretly, I felt this punch in my gut every time I sent a link to a wig that I bought, because deep down I knew that my wigs were terrible. I had spent hundreds of dollars on Amazon wigs, over $1,500 on human hair wigs online, and within weeks they looked like this. I'm curious, is there anyone that has ever seen someone wearing a wig and immediately thought like, that's a wig? Is there anybody in the chat? Drop in the chat, say that's a wig. Okay. Now, stylists are usually the first ones to notice. Women are spending thousands of dollars trying to feel confident, and they're ending up with something that looks like a Halloween costume weeks later. And I remember thinking, there is just no way that this is the best that we can do. And so that's when I made a decision. I stopped shopping and I started investigating. I thought, okay, if the internet can't solve this, the professionals must be able to, right? That's the most logical next place to go. So I went to 7 different local salons. 7. And every single time I heard some version of, I'm sorry, we can't help you, or your hair is too short, or that's not our niche. And they weren't rude to me at all. They just didn't know how to help. They had no resources. Meanwhile, I kept seeing celebrities wearing wigs that looked completely real. Like you couldn't even tell that it was a wig. Perfect hairlines, perfect density, perfect movement. And then I started finding these famous wig makers on Instagram, and they were selling wigs for $10,000, $12,000, $15,000, like they were handbags. And that's when something clicked for me. The industry was split in two. On one side, you have luxury wigs, celebrity wigs, $10,000 wigs. And then on the other side, you have local salons with no training, no access, no education, and no confidence. And in the middle, were women with real budgets, real hair loss, and nowhere to go. And so that's when I saw the gap. Someone say gap in the chat. No one was filling it. And once you see a gap like this, you just can't unsee it. Okay, so I realized something. It had nothing to do with stylists or the industry being unwilling to help. Stylists just weren't taught hair loss in cosmetology school, and stylists don't touch what they don't understand. So it wasn't a motivation problem, it was an education problem. It was a distribution problem. Okay, and that's when I made a decision. If no one had built the bridge, I would. So I started going straight to the source. I began sourcing. I started asking questions that nobody wanted to answer, right? Like, where does the hair actually come from? Why does it shed? Why does it dry out? Why does it look incredible when it arrives and then terrible 3 weeks later? And I learned the hard way. I spent tens of thousands of dollars testing factories. I worked with a supplier for nearly a year who turned out to be a complete fraud. And I received shipments that looked nothing like what was promised. And while I was learning the hard way, I was still watching women spend $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 on wigs that still looked outdated. They still looked wiggy, they didn't last. And that's when I realized that this wasn't just a hair problem, this was a systems problem. And so eventually we got it right. We finally created wigs that looked and felt like my own hair. I could run my hands through them. They felt like they were made for me. And a year later, they still looked brand new. And once we figured that out and we really nailed the quality, that's when I saw the real problem. The issue wasn't just quality, it was the pricing model. Major brands were marking up their products 300, sometimes 500%. They were selling wigs between $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, and the stylists, the actual professionals who were closest to the client, were nowhere in that margin. They weren't included in that margin at all. And that's when I realized something even bigger, which was that the profit, someone say profit in the chat, the profit in this industry wasn't actually in the hair. It was in the secrecy. The sourcing was hidden, the margins were hidden, and the knowledge was hidden. And then the bigger pattern started to appear. The big brands who were mass producing wigs and hoarding all the majority of the margins, the profits, and the stylists, the professionals actually working with the client, were completely cut out of the deal. And that's when the opportunity became obvious. If we could control the sourcing, if we could eliminate the secrecy, if we could bring transparency to the margins, there were thousands of dollars that could go back to the client or go back to the stylist. Because once I understood sourcing, once I understood margins, I realized something. The profits were never missing. They were just sitting in somebody else's warehouse. And so the questions changed. It wasn't, can wigs work? Can I do this? Can I sell wigs? I knew the market was there. It was, how do I make this simple? How do I make it scalable? How do I make this something a stylist can actually implement inside a real salon without burning out and without losing money? So what I'm about to show you right now is the exact framework that we built that turns wigs into a scalable business model, a model that multiplies chair revenue without multiplying hours. And once we built this system, the stylist started generating thousands of dollars in additional revenue per client without adding more days behind the chair. If you guys are ready for that model, will you drop model? Drop model in the chat. All right. Everything that I've shared with you up until this point leads to one realization. Whether wigs feel confusing or scalable comes down to three different things: profit, positioning, and process. And even if just one of these three things is missing, wigs can feel stressful, they can feel risky, and hard to deliver. But when all of these three things are in place, wigs become predictable, scalable, and profitable. So the first one is profit. If the margin isn't clear, nothing scales. The second one is your process. If you don't have a system, everything feels chaotic. You feel like you're rushing through the process to help your client. And number three is positioning. If the client doesn't see the value, that's when price becomes a problem. So before we talk about marketing and before we talk about premium clients, we have to start with the foundation. Let's start with the first piece of the model, profit. Because there is usually one belief that keeps stylists from ever treating wigs like an actual revenue stream. And it is, can I actually make money doing this? Right? How many of you have thought that before? Can I actually make money with wigs? Right? How do I make money with wigs? Most stylists believe that wigs are too expensive to sell. They assume that clients will not invest, or might even have assumed that the margins just are not worth it. And that belief is wrong, and here's why. When I was pricing our wigs, I struggled with this too. I wanted them to feel accessible. I wanted stylists to feel confident selling them. So at first, I assumed that the problem was price. I thought that if I could just make them cheaper, they would be easier to sell. So I did what most people do. I tried to lower the costs. I searched for cheaper factories. I negotiated stronger. I tested new suppliers, and you know what happened? The quality dropped. They came dry, they came coated in silicone, despite explicitly requesting that they not be. And if you know wigs, you know that silicone coating is a red flag. Same with extensions, toppers, anything across the board with hair. And that's when it clicked for me. I was not just solving a pricing problem, I was solving a quality problem. The goal is not the cheapest wig. The goal is the highest quality wig with a healthy margin. Someone say healthy margins in the chat. Because when quality is high, confidence is high, trust is high, and selling becomes a lot easier for you. And so that's when I started studying markups across the industry like my literal life depended on it. These are real wigs currently being sold online. $4,000, $6,000, $12,000 with no stylist support and no stylist profit. So we developed something unique. Instead of building a direct-to-consumer brand and keeping that margin for ourselves, we structured it so stylists could keep the majority of the profits. So I want to take you through what we call wig math. So let's say that the average profit per wig is $1,000. That's a very healthy margin. One client at $1,000, three clients would be $3,000, eight clients would be $8,000. Most stylists don't generate $8,000 from 8 full days behind the chair. I want you to hear what I said again. Most stylists don't generate $8,000 from 8 full days behind the chair, at least not in pure profit. 3 to 8 clients replacing a month of chair income, and most salons already have the traffic to support that. So let's zoom out on that wig math for just a second. Let's say, okay, so the average profit is $1,000, right? 8 clients per month is an $8,000 profit plus. $8,000 per month is $96,000 per year. And that's just 8 clients per month. Not 8 clients a week, not 8 clients per day, 8 clients per month. Many stylists are working full time behind the chair to reach that exact same number. So, once I understood the margin, the next question was, where do these clients actually come from, right? So, I want to point something out because most of you already see these clients every single month. The client whose part is getting a little bit wider, right? The postpartum client who's shedding their hair, the hormonal thinning client that's trying to hide their scalp, the alopecia client that's coming in wearing hats, or maybe it's just someone that you know that has a friend or a sister or a mom who unfortunately was diagnosed with cancer and is going through treatment. And the truth is, most of you are already seeing at least 5 to 15 of these clients, if not the clients that have a friend that they can refer to every single month. The difference is you've just never been shown how to solve the problem. We're going to show you how to solve the problem tonight. If that's not enough, let's zoom out for a second, talk more about demand. So one single mid-size oncology clinic can see between 1,500 and 3,000 patients per year. Now, obviously, not every patient loses their hair. Not every person who loses their hair chooses to wear a wig. But let's just say that just 1% of those patients are actively looking for professional wig support. 1% of 1,500 patients is 15 potential clients. 1% of 3,000 patients is 30 potential clients. And remember, you don't need 8 clients per month to create a 6-figure profit stream. You only need about 8 clients per month to create a 6-figure profit stream. This isn't about selling wigs to vulnerable people. It's about providing them with a solution that they are already looking for. And oncology is just one of those categories, right? Alopecia, postpartum, hormonal, like we discussed. This is not about exploiting their crisis. It's about identity restoration. So the real opportunity isn't whether the demand actually exists, it's whether stylists are positioned to serve it. There's a reason why most stylists never tap into this opportunity, and it's not because the demand isn't there. You've already seen the demand. The clients already exist. The market already exists. The real barrier is the margin clarity. It's understanding your profits. Most stylists actually only look at the cost of a wig instead of calculating the profit opportunity, right? So you see a $1,500 wig and you think that's expensive. But what you're not asking is, what is the margin on this wig? So at this point, I want to introduce you to somebody who some of you may already know. Her name is Bree Morgan. Bree is a hair loss and topper specialist. She was recently awarded the Educator of the Year at SalonCon Live. And before implementing this system, Bree was already doing wigs with her clients on her own for many years. But like most stylists, every single wig that she sourced was custom sourced, which we love. But that also meant that every supplier was a guess, every order required research. She was spending late nights communicating with suppliers overseas. She was serving her clients well, but the process itself, it was unpredictable. It was time consuming and it was impossible to scale. So Bree recently joined us to break down what happened when she implemented this system and these profit margins into her business. I want you to hear it directly from her. So I'm going to play her recording for just a moment.
Can have a heart-led project while still making a wildly awesome profit to keep your doors open. Because at the end of the day, if you can't pay your bills and keep your doors open, it doesn't matter how good of a heart you have because now your business is closed. One of the biggest things when I came in was how can I actually make a profit? Pieces I was getting from overseas were on average around $1,200. For me to buy that $1,200 piece and get it shipped to me, this is before tariffs, guys. So my shipping and insurance rates on that were on average, not at most, on average, $250. So by the time I received my wig for the insurance that I put on it and everything, I was usually in the $1,500 to $1,800 range already. Plus the time it was going to take me to customize that, because the custom pieces that they send you come in like 7 colors. And they're like, would you like blonde, brown, black, or super black? And you're like, blonde, I guess. The hairline looks like a hook, a square. And you're like, okay, so I'm plucking that. So by the time I got done customizing that wig, it was usually an 8-hour project. It was multiple days squeezing these things behind other clients here, there, and everywhere. So my customization rate runs $100 an hour, but my hourly rate behind the chair when I'm working with clients is even higher. Okay, so I was technically losing money on my customization so that I could do this. Now with a Maven piece, I pay no shipping. I don't have to insure my piece. I don't have to have tariffs. So there we go. Now moving on to my color customization. Guess what? These pieces are gorgeous. They're beautiful. I don't have to customize the color, and my profits just went up 63%. Before, I'm gambling and throwing money away, and really, I ran my numbers using those things. About 38% is what I ended up being in the hole on my wig business before I found Maven. Since I have had a Maven piece, have I ever had to do anything fancy? I've never had a return. I've never had to recolor anything. My life is so much easier. And knowing that when I order a piece, it's going to come in and be exactly what I expected. We move into the cosmetic side of this market, and my profits should go all the way up. And the cosmetic side, I mark everything up 120% across the board. So on a 24-inch bright blonde piece, I'm bringing in $5,300.
Okay. I love Bree. She's a friend. She's an incredible educator. You guys got to go follow her. So, if you have ever believed that wigs don't make money, it's usually because you're focusing too much on the cost of the product instead of the margin behind it. Now, I need you to understand clients searching for solutions are already seeing wigs online for $4,000, $6,000, even $10,000. But most of those listings also come with no consultation, no customization, no styling support, no professional guidance, which means the stylist who can deliver the right solution becomes the trusted expert. And so that's where the opportunity exists. Now, at this point in my journey, I realized something really important, that this was never just about adding another service. It was about controlling the margins, controlling the pricing, and controlling the impact that you can make without working more hours. When you control the supply, you control the profit. So if this realization is landing for you, I want you to write in the chat, I control my profit. Type I control my profit in the chat. Okay, so now that we have established the profits behind wigs and how a handful of clients can replace income behind the chair, the next question that most stylists are thinking is, can I confidently sell this? Right? Can I charge $2,000, $3,000, or even more without feeling like I'm taking advantage of somebody in a vulnerable place? Right? And the deeper question becomes, why would someone trust me with that decision? That's really what you're asking, right? So when I first started talking about wigs, my wig journey, I personally struggled with this. Even though major brands were selling similar pieces for $10,000, I didn't feel comfortable saying, this is a $3,500 wig, because it felt predatory. It felt like I was pointing out someone's insecurity and then attaching a price tag to it, right? And I absolutely refused to build my business that way. And I knew that most stylists probably felt the exact same way. You don't want to prey on someone's insecurities, right? You don't want to exploit someone who's going through hair loss. And the good news is you don't have to. So for a while, I almost didn't talk about wigs at all until I realized something. I've said this once. Women were already searching. They were already buying. They were already spending thousands of dollars online, hoping they made the right choice, often with no professional guidance. Now, I want you to imagine if you were the one who intercepted that purchase. Someone say intercept in the chat. Instead of someone gambling on a $3,000 wig online, they had a professional guiding them through that decision. Someone who understands fit, quality, someone who understands their situation, right? That changes everything because now it's not just selling a wig, it's about protecting someone from making the wrong decision and positioning you as the person that they trust to get it right. So I knew that the demand already existed. People were already searching, already buying, already spending thousands of dollars. The problem was not demand. The problem was guidance. There was no professional guiding them through their decision. And that is the gap that this entire system, this entire training is designed to fill. So I stopped trying to sell wigs and I started intercepting purchases because the reality is people are already buying wigs online blindly with no guidance. So the opportunity isn't just convincing someone to buy, it's helping them make the right decision before they make the wrong one. So there are three things that are required to intercept purchases ethically and consistently. We call this the 3D positioning model. There's three simple components. Number one, discoverability. People have to be able to find you when they're searching for solutions. Number two, desire-based positioning. They need to be able to see you as a trusted expert, not just another stylist. And third, invitation. You need a clear way to invite them into the solution. Because when those three pieces, these three pillars are in place, you stop chasing clients, you start intercepting purchases, decisions that were already going to happen. And the best part is that this framework works across your entire beauty business, okay? Not just with wigs. So let's go through them. First, you have to be discoverable, not popular, okay? I'm not very popular these days online, right? Most cases, you don't really see me even posting on social media. So I'm not very popular, but I became discoverable. Now, I want to share with you, I live in a city of 300,000 people. When I searched wig stylist near me on Google, I found exactly one person. And not to mention, when I reached out to that one person, she never responded to me. How many of you are going to respond if someone reaches out to you? I would think if there's $1,000 price tag attached to it as well, you'd probably respond, right? So the question isn't whether clients exist, it's whether they can find you. First, you have to be discoverable, not popular, discoverable. Okay? So, in most cities, there are fewer than 5 stylists actively positioning themselves for wig services, which means visibility is the issue, not demand. Visibility. So tonight after this training, I want you to Google wig stylist near me. Don't do it right now. Don't leave the training. Wait till after. And if you can't find anyone, you know that's your opportunity. The second part of this model is desire, okay? Desire-based positioning. Most who are marketing in the hair loss space, you'll see this all over, especially now that you're in this training, you'll see it everywhere. Most who are marketing in this space lead with pain. Are you losing your hair? Are you struggling with thinning? Is your hair falling out? But the truth about that kind of messaging is that it can actually repel people. Most people don't want to they don't want to sit in their pain, okay? They want to move toward who they're becoming. Now, luxury brands understand this really well. Dior does not run ads to you saying, "Does your handbag suck?" No, they don't sell problems. They sell elevation. They sell identity. And women don't buy wigs just because they're desperate. Here's the thing, I didn't have to buy a wig. I bought it because I wanted to feel whole again. And when you position your marketing, your messaging around the outcome instead of the insecurity, selling stops feeling awkward, right? It no longer feels like you're preying on someone's insecurities or their pain. Who wants to sell in that way? Nobody, right? And you start attracting clients who are ready to buy. They're just waiting for somebody who's going to make this accessible to them, easy for them, which is the next part we're going to get into, right? And who's going to see them and where they're trying to go, not where they're running away from. So, the third part of this model is the invitation, your call to action. But this is not just click here to buy. Okay. It's giving them a clear next step, right? Clear follow through. Here's how we do this. Here's how we begin, how we guide you. Here's how we help you make the right decision, right? One question I ask constantly in my business is how can we make it easier for people to buy? Right? Have you ever noticed how much resistance there is? You ever go to buy something and you're like, why is it so hard to find someone? Remember this, like the stylist that I mentioned, who never replied to my inquiry, even still to this day. It was unnecessary friction. And when someone is considering a high ticket purchase, the only thing the client needs to build trust is clarity. So your job is to make the next step obvious because most of you don't lack clients. That's not the problem, right? But you do lack discoverability, positioning, and a clear pathway. So you can see the pieces, right? You can become discoverable. You can position yourself in a way that attracts premium clients, and you can also invite people into a clear next step. But the reality is that if every single consultation feels like you're improvising, right? Every order that you're placing on behalf of a client feels like you're completely reinventing the wheel, then you will not scale. And that's exactly why we built the third part of the 3D positioning model, which is process. So as we started to build Maven, stylists, some of our partners began calling us in a panic, calling us, emailing us. And it wasn't because they couldn't sell wigs, it was because they were trying to fix them, right? So one stylist told us that her client ordered a wig online that was a one size fits all wig, and she was up sewing that wig in the middle of the night before this client's wedding. Can you just imagine? Or maybe you've actually been through an experience like that. Or another stylist told us she spent hours thinning a wig that a client brought in just to try to make it look natural. Or in some cases, you ever think that you're buying what you would think is like a teddy blonde, but then it arrives in like a bright number 60 blonde, and you're like, this is not what I ordered, right? Now you're toning it at 11 p.m., hoping that you didn't ruin it. And factories were promising one thing, but delivering something completely different. And the stylists who came to us weren't just losing money, they were losing time, confidence, and sometimes they were losing trust in their clients. So that's when it hit me. The real fear was not that the stylists were just worried about profit, they were worried about the responsibility, right? What if a client trusts me and I get it wrong? What if the color is completely off? What if I order the wrong cap size? What if I just lost $1,200? And the fear actually goes a lot deeper than that from my experience. It's what if somebody trusts me with something this personal and I can't deliver the outcome that they were hoping for? So, write this down. If you don't control the consultation and you don't guide the design decisions. You don't control the outcome. And when the outcome is not right, that client walks out the door, sits in their car, and cries, wonders if they made a mistake. So it's not just about the wig, it's about trusting you fully. And that's when we realize something really important, which is that if stylists are going to step into this space confidently, they need more than great marketing. They need a process that protects that outcome because guessing is expensive, right? Hope is not a design strategy, not when you're ordering a $1,200 or $2,000 piece. You can't just hope that the density is right, or hope that the color shows up correctly, or hope that the cap fits. Because when you guess, you're gambling with your money, your client's money, and you're gambling with their trust. So, this is where many stylists accidentally sabotage. Okay? Your client sits down and you ask them, "What do you want?" Anyone ever seen The Notebook? Right? What do you want? Tell me what you want. Or you'll ask them, "Do you have a Pinterest photo?" How many of you can relate to that? I'm going to tell you why that question is backwards. Okay? If most stylists in the world don't fully understand wigs yet, imagine how little the client understands. They don't know what density is, cap construction, hairline, color. They're guessing. And if the client is guessing, the stylist is guessing, the outcome is random, right? So, step one in your consultations is always identity. Someone type identity in the chat. Because we're not just starting with color, right? We're not starting with color. We're not starting with length. We're not starting with style. We start with identity, right? Not what hair do you want? It's how do you want to feel? Okay. Do you want to feel powerful and bold? Do you want this major transformation? Or do you want to feel soft and feminine, right? Soft girl era. Or do you want to feel like yourself again, right? Because their answer tells you the identity that they want to step into, right? This is now the follow through on the outcome that you're speaking to in your marketing, right? Where they're going. But now you and them get to have this collaborative experience with each other. And identity determines every single design decision that follows. It determines density, color, length, hairline. Everything flows from identity. So that's always where we begin. Step two is lifestyle. Okay, so because wigs themselves can be beautiful, they're not just about the look. Okay, wigs actually have a life to them, right? So I always ask clients a few simple questions. I say, is this for daily wear? Is this for special occasions? Are you going to the gym in this wig? Are you traveling in this? Are you wearing it 8 to 10 hours a day? Or is this something that you're just going to pull out for photos and dinners? Because here's the mistake that most stylists make. They select the wig for the photo, not for the life. A daily wig needs comfort, security, an occasional glam wig. You can prioritize more density, more drama, more movement, right? If you skip this step, you end up designing a red carpet wig for a woman who needs to wear it to school drop off every morning. And she doesn't want anyone to know that she's wearing a wig. And then the wig feels too heavy, it's too hot, it's too much work. And then the client says, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. But the problem wasn't the wig, the problem was the lifestyle mismatch. So before we ever touch color and length, we always ask, how is this wig going to live in your life? Step three, structure. And this is the moment, okay, where you stop being an artist for a second and you start thinking like an engineer, a designer. I like to use the word designer because now you're designing three different things: cap size, construction, and hairline. And this single decision determines if the cap is too big, if the wig ends up shifting, if it buckles, if it lifts up at the hairline, or maybe the cap size is too small and now we have tension headaches and pressure points and the client can't wait to take it off their head. This is the foundation of the entire design. Because when this step is wrong, you're not just designing anymore, now you're troubleshooting. That's when you end up sewing the inside of a wig at midnight before a client's wedding. Okay, so step three, or sorry, step five is the visual design. Let me see, did I get that? Or were we on step four? I got a little turned around on my notes, to be honest. Okay, I think we did volume. We didn't do volume. Step four, volume and shape, right? This is where you get to start to control the shape of the wig, the way that it falls on your client, right? These things are really important because how your client wears the wig every single day. This is where you come in as the stylist. This is where you get to control the post-delivery customizations and not leave them with a piece that they just bought online and they're hoping that it turns out right. And now they're trying to cut their own wig at home and clogging up the drain in their sink, right? This is where you control the shape and the volume, how you want it to feel, and what kind of cut and style do you want to have on this. This is a very different experience than the experience that they get buying a $4,000 wig online and then hoping for the best. Okay? And then last but not least is the visual design. This is where you're finally talking about highlights, right? Balayages, the curl pattern, even, right? Is one of the most things that stylists love the most, right? This is where we get to be artists. But the problem is most of you are starting here. You're starting with the Pinterest photo. You're starting with the color, the highlights, the style. But the reason that that's backwards is because visual design is not the foundation of a wig. It's the finishing piece. So I want you to think about it like the structure is the cake, right? And the visual design is the icing. The icing can make something beautiful, but it can't fix a cake that was built wrong. So these are what's called your design checkpoints. And when you start leading wig consultations this way, something really interesting happens. The client relaxes, right? Because the truth is, they don't want to have to design a wig. They want to trust a professional. Someone type trust, if that makes sense. Because a professional wig designer doesn't actually, they don't guess outcomes. They guide them, they engineer them. And when you end up following a design protocol like this, you're not just hoping that the wig turns out, you're actually designing the result. Now, you could absolutely build something like yourself. You could spend a year testing suppliers and trying to figure out which hair grades are silicone coated, learning which factories overpromise and underdeliver. Or you could step into a system that's already built, one that already solves the sourcing, the quality control, the design process, so you can focus on what you actually want to do, which is helping hair loss clients feel like themselves again. Now, in the last 55 minutes, we just covered a lot. We talked about how wigs create a leverage revenue stream, how stepping into the role of an alternative hair designer allows you to scale beyond the chair, and how having just a handful of wig clients can replace an entire week of chair income. So, what I want to do now, with your permission, is spend about 10 minutes showing you exactly how to implement this, the fastest way to do it, the way that avoids the mistakes that I made. Would you guys be okay if I take just 10 minutes and share a really special offer with you? If you guys are good with that, will you drop yes in the chat? I see a yes. Joanne said yes. Nicole said yes. Please. Kim said yes. Liz, yes. Yes. Amazing. Thank you for your permission. So before I show you the offer, I want to share one quick story with you. When I was little, my dad took us to a fish and game club, and we were headed there for an Easter egg hunt. How many of you are here because you saw our ad with the golden egg? So the whole ride there, we kept talking about who was going to find the golden Easter egg, and all of us were so convinced that it was going to be me who found it, right? I was so excited about that golden egg. It was literally all I could think about. So the siren goes off, the kids start running, and I'm standing in the middle of this field, and I look down and I see this golden, shiny film that's buried in the ground beneath me. I knew at that moment I found the golden egg. But all of a sudden, my sister comes to me and she tells me she thinks that she found the golden egg and to come look. So at that moment, something happened that stuck with me for my whole life. As I'm running away to follow her, I look back and I see a little boy standing in the exact same spot that I was. He bends down and he yells, "I found it! I found the golden egg!" The siren goes off, they announce a winner, and that was the first moment in my entire life that I learned how important it is to trust yourself. Trust your instincts. And that is how I felt when I found the wig industry. I knew I had found my golden egg. This was my moment to trust my instincts. So as I walk through this offer, if you feel that moment of recognition, if you're like, this could be something for me, right? I want you to trust that instinct because what we have built at Maven is designed to give stylists the exact system, the exact sourcing and support that they need to step into this opportunity with confidence. So at that moment, and that moment is when I realized something. Most stylists are sitting on a golden egg. They just don't have the system to collect it consistently. So what I want to do, I'm going to show you exactly how we solve that problem, the fastest way to implement this. Okay, what we built is not a course. It's not just another wholesale account. It's not just another certification to hang on your wall. We built the program and system that gives stylists control in an industry that was designed to keep it from them. Beyond the Chair is the platform for stylists who are done feeling stuck behind the chair and ready to become brand partners, certified Maven artists, which means you're no longer guessing. You're operating inside of a proven system, a system where the quality is vetted, the margins are already built in, and the consultation process is already mapped out. Okay, so wigs are no longer risky. They're becoming predictable and profitable, which means you're no longer figuring this out alone. And the difference between trying to build this yourself and stepping into an ecosystem that already exists is the difference between trading time for money or stepping into leverage immediately. Because hair loss is one of the fastest growing segments in beauty. And the stylists who learn how to serve this well are the ones who will build the most powerful businesses in the next decade. Beyond the Chair was built for these stylists who are ready to step into that future. So I want to show you exactly what happens when you step into Beyond the Chair. Beyond the Chair was built on 3 pillars: access, certainty, and scale. So pillar 1 is access, because most stylists are trying to enter the wig space are doing it completely blind, hunting suppliers, trying to negotiate factories that don't understand you, okay? You're guessing whether or not the hair is going to arrive usable and sometimes risking thousands of dollars on the wrong order. And so when you become a brand partner inside Beyond the Chair, that guesswork disappears. You're no longer trying to figure out the wig industry from the outside. You're stepping directly into the back end of it. That back end starts with direct wholesale access. Inside of our system, brand partners have access to medical grade wigs, toppers, and extensions designed specifically for professional stylists, all in one. You're not ordering random inventory from the internet. Okay, you're working with for factory direct customization, protected stylist pricing, and quality controlled sourcing. But access alone is not enough, because if you've ever tried ordering hair from multiple suppliers, you already know what happens. The colors don't match, right? Tones shift from order to order. And suddenly you're trying to solve a $3,000 client transformation with hair that doesn't even belong in the same family. Inside Beyond the Chair, everything runs through a unified color system, one color ring. Wigs, toppers, and extensions are built around the same palette, which means everything integrates seamlessly. No factory color roulette, just predictable professional results for your clients. And this system was not built in isolation, at least not the whole time. It's shaped by the professionals who have been leading this industry for decades. Professionals like John Dudley, who is a celebrity wig artist who has been the hands behind some of Hollywood's most iconic wigs, including the Wicked set. Anyone see the Wicked movies? Cher, even Taylor Swift's most recent album. And if stylists are going to step into the medical space, they shouldn't be figuring it out alone. And so Dawn created a testimonial for us. It's 60 seconds long. If it's okay with you, I'm going to share it with you really quick so you can hear from her perspective as a wig artist that's been doing this for 30 years and worked with some of the biggest names in Hollywood.
I'm familiar with ordering from China and ordering from overseas, and I've done all that. You guys have done all the legwork that I don't want to do.
Exactly.
I just want access because I could call any one of these Jewish wig making companies that have a good quality of hair that you can find in China.
Yep.
Then you're ordering, you're testing. You might get something great, you might get something terrible, you don't know, you're spending all this money. Da, 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 da. I don't want to do all that work.
Right.
And so I saw this presentation and this opportunity, and I was like, great, this can be a way for me to service the people that see me for.
Without taking on all of the investment risk and liability.
While I'm still primarily working in production and celebrity and all of that.
Yeah.
This is starting to, I'm seeing where I need to bridge, and this provides me a bridge that's a realistic solution.
So, access alone doesn't create confidence. So that's where our second pillar comes in. Pillar number 2 is certainty, because having the right supply chain doesn't mean much if you're still unsure in the consultation what to recommend, how to price it, how to measure correctly, or what happens if something goes wrong, right? So, certainty. Inside Beyond the Chair, you don't just get access to products, you step into the role of a true hair loss specialist. The stylist clients trust with their most personal transformations, when you know exactly what solution is right and which one is not. And you're able to lead consultations with confidence. And the first place that certainty comes from is in our education. Inside Beyond the Chair, you complete the WIG University certification, which is a structured, decision-backed system designed specifically for licensed cosmetology professionals entering the wig and hair loss space. You learn how to lead hair loss consultations, how to build in $1,000 margins, how to measure and fit correctly the first time, how to design solutions without leaving anything to guesses, right? And how to protect your salon with professional documentation, clear expectations with your clients, right? That way you don't feel like you're experimenting on your clients, you're guiding them through the process. And certification alone is not enough either. Real confidence comes from support. Inside Beyond the Chair, you're also part of our Maven Wig Artist Network, a private professional community where stylists share case studies, ask questions, and learn from each other in real time. You get direct access to educators, not just me, more than me, shared industry standards, real-time case support when a client situation gets complicated or complex or you have a question, right? Because when you're working in the hair loss space, you should not have to figure it out alone. And once you start serving your clients confidently, the next step is growth. So every single month inside Beyond the Chair, we host live strategy and business growth sessions. These are real-time conversations about scaling a wig business beyond your first few clients. We cover consultation conversions, marketing, positioning, high-ticket sales confidence, long-term business expansion. If you loved this training tonight and you loved the way that I led you and that I shared stories and opened your perspective and helped you understand why something lands so you can really learn from it, that's what we do inside of Beyond the Chair. It's not just about learning how to sell wigs. It's about building a real specialty inside of your salon and becoming the best of the best. Maven stands for the term expert in Hebrew, and we take that very seriously inside of our program. And there's one more layer that removes a huge amount of uncertainty for stylists, which is insurance. Many clients who are navigating hair loss are eligible for reimbursement through their insurance plans, but the documentation process can feel overwhelming. So inside of Beyond the Chair, we guide that process. Clients can submit claims through Maven. We guide the documentation and the best practices so you can stay focused on the client and you never have to become an insurance expert. Now, pillar number 3, when you combine access to the industry with the certainty to serve clients confidently, everything starts to shift. So that leads us to our third pillar, scale. Because selling a wig once is nice, but adding an entirely new revenue category to your salon is something completely different. So inside Beyond the Chair, this is about replacing what you already do. It's not about replacing what you already do. It's about expanding your business beyond the limits of the chair, attracting higher value clients, adding revenue without adding more hours, and becoming known for a specialty that most salons simply don't offer. When hair loss becomes part of your service menu, your business stops relying only on appointments and starts benefiting from high value transformations. And as you begin serving clients in this category, visibility starts to matter, right? What's our number one of the 3D positioning is discoverability, right? So inside Maven, certified artists are placed into the certified artist directory. This is a centralized directory designed to connect clients with trained specialists, which means when someone in your region reaches out to Maven searching for a hair loss solution, they can be routed directly for you. It creates verified specialist status, inbound client visibility. So instead of chasing new clients, the right clients can begin to find you. And there's one more piece that supports scale, because learning how to sell wigs is one thing, but learning how to build a real business is another. So inside Beyond the Chair, you also get access to my private program called Built to Scale. This is a private founder level audio podcast where I talk about business in a much broader way, not just wigs, not just stylists, but the principles that actually build a scalable business. And every single week, I drop private audio conversations about leverage, decision making, pricing, positioning, long-term business strategies, the kinds of conversations that people, that founders are having behind closed doors. Because if you're going to add a high value category to your business, you should also understand how real businesses are built. Now, at this point, some of you already know. You know you're going to add hair loss to your business. You just haven't decided when. And you absolutely could build this yourself. You could spend hundreds of hours figuring out margins and mistakes with real clients. That path absolutely exists. Or you could step into an ecosystem that already exists and stop trying to figure out wigs and business alone. Start building a business that grows beyond the chair. There's one thing that you should know. 4 weeks ago, we opened up this brand partner program for the very first time. Since then, 96 stylists nationwide have stepped in, which means only 4 spots remain to complete the founding 100. And once we cross 100, that designation closes forever. There will never be another founding 100. So as Maven continues growing, we receive client inquiries every single week. And during this early phase, the founding 100 receive priority visibility as those referrals are routed. So if you join this cycle, you're not just enrolling, you're stepping into the group that defined the first era of this movement. There's one more thing before I share the price with you, I promise. For the next group of stylists who join Beyond the Chair, we're doing something that we have literally never done before. It's 4 weekly coaching calls where I personally walk you through launching your wig business, attracting premium hair loss clients, positioning a high ticket category inside your salon. The most important part is that if you join next month, you will still have access to Beyond the Chair, but you will not be inside of this live mastermind. So if you're ready to evolve with where beauty is going, if you're ready to treat hair loss as a serious category inside of your business, then step into the brand partner program that already exists. Now let's talk the investment. Beyond the Chair is a one-time investment of $997 for lifetime access. So what's important to understand is that One single wig client typically generates, and I should say one single stylist in our program typically generates $1,000 per more in margin per client, which means this program can pay for itself with one client. There's no subscriptions, there's no annual renewals, there's no hidden wholesale fees. It's just one decision. Lifetime access to the entire ecosystem, continued education as we grow and expand every single month. And if you are someone who also prefers to preserve your cash flow in your business, we do offer third-party financing through Stripe's partners. So you can choose the payment option that works best for you. Some wig and hair loss certifications alone can cost $3,000 to $10,000. Now, I also want to say something. This decision isn't actually about the 997, because many of you will absolutely figure this out eventually. You'll test suppliers, you'll experiment, you'll see if maybe the clients come into your salon, and maybe you'll do it later. And eventually you'll get there. The real question is, do you want to spend the next 2 or 3 years figuring this out alone, or step into a system that exists? Tonight you have the opportunity to step into beyond the chair and become part of the founding 100. For those who step in during this cycle, there's something else that I want to give you. Anyone who enrolls before Sunday will receive the Maven Starter Kit shipped in April. This includes the proprietary Maven coloring, the exact tool that Maven artists use to design wigs confidently during consultations, along with the core tools that help you start implementing immediately. So you're not just learning a system, you're equipped to start using it. The starting kits are only being produced for this founding cycle. There's one more fast action bonus that we have for you. For those who enroll within the next 24 hours, tonight into tomorrow, we're including a private March strategy call, a private intensive with myself. During this session, I am personally going to help you map out your first wig client, your first consultation, and how to position this category profitably inside of your salon. So instead of wondering where to begin, you're going to walk away with a clear next step. So